Welcome to the millennium, the paranoid visions.
Growing up in Dublin back in, 1979, 1980, when I was a young teenager, it wasn't great. There's no doubt about that. It wasn't great. There wasn't a huge amount of things that you could look forward to. I mean, one of the biggest aspirations you can have would be to get a job at a bank. There wasn't that many gigs to go to. There wasn't that many venues that you could get into. Depending if you looked in any way slightly left of centre. I mean, you're talking minor things. Just arriving into a pub with your shirt hanging out and a loosely fitting tie and a pair of bondage trousers was enough not to be allowed in. It was pretty stupid, really, you know. The late 70s, early 80s were a seismic change in how the arts were presented and how the arts were dealt with. It became less pretentious and more of an expression. And the music was changing weekly. And the way the music was being presented and the way music was being created was changing on a week-to-week basis. Well, what drew me towards punk was I was at the right age for it, because that's what was actually happening. It seemed a lot more exciting than other music. So when around about 78 or 79, I got introduced to this band Crass. It was the Station of the Crass, just that it just come out. And the opening song on that, Mother Earth, to this day is the most terrifying bit of music I've ever heard in my life. I actually stood in front of a stereo with my jaw dropping, looking at the stereo, not believing what it was I was hearing. So that was defining. That was my defining moment, and it did change my life forever. It genuinely changed my life forever, because I immediately rejected anything that involved authority. You can reject authority without just being a brat. It's just that you set your own terms, you set your own rules, and in an ideal world everybody sets their own terms and sets their own rules, but none of those rules or terms involve fucking people over. The great thing about punk, as far as I can see, and I don't think anyone can dispute it, is that punk is a total leveler. There is no class in punk, there is no colour, there's no sex, there's no age, there's no disability. Everybody has exactly the same worth.
The best band coming out of Dublin. Never mind you two, Paranoid Visions #1. Always have, always will be. Because they play songs about politics and the right songs that happen in Dublin, they can't get played on the radio. And that's the problem, you know. Tell the truth. And Deco, the frontman, the best.
The first band that I actually joined that was ever going to be a band was Paranoid Visions. I went into the great record shop that used to be on Bachelor's Wall called Base X one Saturday afternoon, and I met Deco in there with a bloke called Brian McNulty, and Brian said, "We're going to form a new band. I'm going to play bass, so we're going to get a look for a guitarist." So I said, "Well, I'll do it." And Brian says, the first thing that just shows how DIY or how shit things were for bands. Brian says, "Do you actually have a guitar?" And I went, "Yeah, I do. And he turns around and looks at Deco, looking for verification on this, and Deco goes, "He does. I've seen it, and it's got a case." So, whoa. I'm the real deal, man, you know? I'm a proper guitarist. Deco had things he wanted to say. He couldn't say them on television. He couldn't say them on the radio. He couldn't say them in the press. He couldn't say them anywhere. And if you stood on a street corner and did it, people would start throwing things at you. So the simplest thing is just throw them into lyrics and throw them into a band and you just vent. You know, it's great. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he actually manages to speak after a show. I also don't know how when I'm doing a gig in a t-shirt and I'm literally soaked through and I'm just like at the end of it, he can do a gig with a hat on and a coat. It just doesn't seem to sweat. It's just weird. He lets loose with every bit of frustration and aggression that he has got. He's a fantastic frontman, it's got to be said. He really is. He's up there with the best. He's up there with the best that I've seen. We never had any aspiration whatsoever of getting a record deal. So we never sent a demo tape to anybody. We never sent anything anywhere to try and get them to release it. It was always the cassette culture and the craft culture. We're doing it ourselves, and straight away that's just what we were going to do. Buying cassettes and burning them at home and photocopying sleeves and piecing them together. But it's a joyous thing to do. It's a great thing to be involved in. The first single that we did, real DIY sleeve, letraset and stuff like that, original drawing and things like that. I mean, one of the things with DIY which I've always held very, very close to my heart is that just because you're doing it yourself, it doesn't mean to say that you have to make a half-assed effort out. I think most of the things we do have a visual aesthetic, or they look good, or they sound good, or they're nicely presented, they're professionally done. It's not having any agenda or any interest whatsoever in doing this as a career. That makes it an awful lot easier to survive 38 years. There's me, Deco, Aoife, Danny, Steo, Tomac, Jen.